If you're a blues junior player and you're anything like me, the way that you like to use it is to play it clean or edge of breakup and then boost it with an overdrive pedal. But which overdrive pedal sounds best? Well, today we are going to shoot out 4 different overdrives that cover a range of classic styles of overdrive pedals and see which one sounds either best or which one you just like best, which one suits your needs the most. So let's get started here with some tone. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I hope you enjoy. Alright, so the pedals that we have for this shootout today are the Keeley Red Dirt, the Wampler Pantheon, the Vick Audio Tree of Life, and the Hoopla Pedals Everyday Overdrive. Now the Keeley Red Dirt is my choice for a tube screamer selection. The Wampler Pantheon is going to be your blues breaker. The Vick Audio Tree of Life is kind of in realm of a full tone OCD. Little bit different, kind of something on bordering on distortion. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And the Hoopla you could describe as an all-purpose sort of overdrive, which again, that one we'll talk more about in a second as well. So we're going to start off with the Keeley Red Dirt. This is one of my favorites, if not my favorite tube screamer style pedal. Now this is inspired by a tube screamer. It's not just a tube screamer clone by any sense of the imagination. Rob Keeley has taken the circuit and really made it his own with this pedal. This one works particularly well with Fender amps, and it has a smoothness to it that I really like as far as going into the Blues Junior. One of the things about the Blues Junior is it can be pretty harsh sounding. It can be kind of brittle and it can have some spiky frequencies. So anything that smooths it out works really well. Now, with the Red Dirt, my favorite way to run the Red Dirt is on the low gain setting. It also has a switch for high gain. I am going to keep it on the low gain for this video. And similarly with the other pedals, the Pantheon especially, which has a lot of different switches and things and many different ways you can dial it in, I am going to keep them dialed in one way, relatively standard, mostly in the interest of time, just kind of a way that I think they sound good. But also know that, you know, with some of these pedals, you could do just a whole long demo just on how each of these individual pedals can be dialed in with this amp. I'm going to give you their basic characteristics and a sound that I think is a good representation of each pedal. Speaking of the Pantheon, next we have the Pantheon. And again, this is inspired by a blues breaker, but this takes it way beyond what a blues breaker does. It does get that sort of classic Marshall sound to it, that kind of classic Marshall edge, which is very nice. It also has a gain level and an overdrive voice switch. The presence is actually stock at 0, which this is an amp you really don't need any extra presence on. But this one, you could get it to sound like a heavy distortion all the way down to just a smooth boost kind of tone, and pretty much everything in between. This one adds just a little bit of that hint of upper mid-rangey compression like a blues breaker does that sounds particularly nice, and is kind of its own flavor when it comes to what it does to the Blues Junior tone. Next we have the Vick Audio Tree of Life. Gondor has no king. Gondor needs no king. This one is described as being kind of Zen drive-like when you roll the gain back and getting to OCD tone-ish when you drive the gain harder. And as you notice, with the gain pushed harder, it does get to sound more like a distortion. So this is the closest one that we have to a distortion for these overdrives, but this is a very versatile pedal, and I like the way it adds a nice edge and it has more definition than the others. It's not necessarily smooth sounding, but what it does to the tone is really nice. It does still kind of round off some of the spikiness, but in a way where the note still has a lot of clarity and a lot of note definition with the drive. This is a great choice from a small company, and again, something that really will probably give you the most saturation. This pedal also has a lot of output power, so you could drive it really, really hard if you wanted to with this pedal. All right, and lastly, we have the Hoopla Everyday Overdrive. Now this is from a small company which is relatively new as far as I'm aware, and this one I mentioned is kind of an all-purpose overdrive. The idea of this pedal is it's kind of a do-anything overdrive, and it has a clipping that works well with a lot of different circuits. This has the backsandal EQ, so the lows and the highs are active. They will actually boost or cut treble and bass here. Now the gain sounds nice, but what I really like about this pedal is it has an output JFET buffer, and what that does is it really smooths out, rounds out the edges. It kind of makes an amplifier sound like it's getting to that point where it's not breaking up yet, but the notes are kind of like collapsing into themselves a little bit more. It's not the same as a compressor. It's not the same as getting to a point where it's overdriven. It's sort of like it's squishing the tone, but again, in not a compressor sort of way. It just makes the amp sound like it's getting pushed a little bit harder, even if it's not. That sounds really, really great. In fact, this is one of of those types of pedals that you might use. You know, it sounds great as just an overdrive going into the Blues Junior, first of all. So if you want, you know, something like this as your main overdrive to run with your amp, it will absolutely work great for that. But it would also be probably one of the most useful tools you could have to set it and forget it, even with the gain lower, and use it more as a tone shaping tool, and then stack other pedals off of, just because of what it does to your tone. So this is a really cool kind of off the beaten path suggestion as far as a way you can sweeten the tone of a Blues Junior and really account for some of its rough around the edgeness, so to speak, because they can be hard to dial in, especially when you get to stage volume. They can get some unpleasant frequencies and things. Well, this will really help smooth that out. So those are my selections. So we have Tube Screamer, Blues Breaker, something getting into the realm of distortion, and kind of an all-purpose overdrive. Those are the four that we have. Now this is a Blues Junior 3. This is the classic Blues Junior 3 limited edition Tweed with the Jensen speaker. Now I've shared an image of how I've dialed it in, and I am going to keep that standard both for the first part and for the next part. I've got the fat switch off, and I do have the reverb off, and I'm using a Keeley Hydra to provide the reverb today. And there are two sort of Blues Junior hacks right there. Two things that will sweeten the tone of your Blues Junior. Don't use the fat switch, and don't use the reverb. The reverb can get really harsh and splashy and bright sounding, and the fat switch just makes everything more, and this is an amp that I don't think really needs anything more. It might, if anything, need a little bit less. So those are two kind of basic Blues Junior hacks. And I think it sounds best, again, if you play it clean and then edge of breakup and then use an overdrive pedal. So you've just heard it with humbuckers. Next, we're going to play it with single coils. And please let us know, which one do you like best? Which pedal in general do you think captures the sound that you hear in your head? Which one do you think interacts best with the Blues Junior? What pedal do you use? Please let us know if there's another pedal that you use with your Blues Junior that you think gets a great sound. Share in the comments with us how you like to dial it in. I'm Jack Fossett. Please stick around for some more tones. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.